Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. You know, there's a part of me that wants to invest this cooldown week with a little bit more significance than it probably deserves. Sure, none of the debuts seem all that big, and the song rising into the top 10 isn't all that interesting, and more of the story seems to be in the returns than the new arrivals or dropouts, at least to me, but I get the impression that the current relative stasis is more unstable than it appears, especially given the number of 2018 songs that are lingering a little longer than they probably should. And nowhere is that more apparent than in our top 10, where for a second week, 7 Rings by Ariana Grande held on to number 1. And I'll admit, I'm a little surprised by that. Yeah, the sales, the YouTube, they are there, and the radio gains are enormous, but the on-demand streams are a little soft, and the fact that they're rushing that 2 Chainz remix out does not speak well to the label's faith in this song's staying power. Still better than Without Me by Halsey though, which remains at number 2, but it seems to have peaked on the airplay. It's starting to tip in all other categories, which is not a good sign for that song. If anything, I would still put money on Sunflower by Post Malone and Sway Lee at number 3. Streaming is stronger, sales are pretty good, and it still has consistent radio traction. I think it might just stay around or even pass Halsey in the coming weeks. Where things get interesting comes in our breakthrough to the top 5, Middle Child by J. Cole at number 4. Now, I'll admit I might be in the minority of being mostly unimpressed by this song, but its on-demand streaming is massive and it has real sales. Still no radio traction, so I'm not sure how long this will last, but we'll see. Now, what I predict might rebound past it is Sicko Mode by Travis Scott down at number 5. As much as the Super Bowl halftime performance can have mixed impacts on performers, Travis Scott did sound pretty decent, and I can see him avoiding the Maroon 5 backlash mostly unscathed. And while I don't see this radio rebounding, you'll probably get a bump on the sales and on the streaming. Next is Thank You Next by Ariana Grande at number 6, which spent the week wavering on airplay even as it's starting to slip in all other categories. 7 Rings might be cannibalizing its longevity, which I'd argue, again, not a good sign. Then we have High Hopes by Panic at the Disco at number 7. Somehow it's still dominant on the radio, but I can see this eventually fading a little faster when faced with any real competition. And I honestly would put Happier by Bastille and Marshmello in a similar camp at number 8, especially as it's losing in all categories. Now, Wow by Post Malone also fell down to number 9, but I expect this to hold its position or gain spots in the coming weeks. It held its spot in all channels and radio is picking up traction. This is probably gonna stick around. And sadly, I think that might be true for at least one more week with Girls Like You by Maroon 5 featuring Cardi B at number 10. Look, I'm not happy about it either, but even despite the Super Bowl backlash, I can see this getting at least a slight boost. Now compare this to what we have in our losers and dropouts, which in the latter category mostly consists of Future, Electricity by Dua Lipa and Silk City, Consequences by Camila Cabello, and Natural by Imagine Dragons. About time in that last one. And the bad luck continued for Future here, with Crushed Up collapsing down to 71 and First Off featuring Travis Scott going down to 57. Beyond that, Twerk by City Girls featuring Cardi B slipped down to 46. That radio cannot pick up fast enough. And Keanu Reeves by Logic fell down to 62, mostly because it's a mediocre song, and I want to imagine that everyone else is as sick of Logic as I am. Now, the bigger story comes in our returning entries, which, given that we didn't really have any major mainstream releases the past week, saw a lot of songs that came back in to plug up the holes. Burnout by Midland at 95, Let Me Down Slowly by Alec Benjamin featuring Alessia Cara at number 100, and also a bunch of songs that probably shouldn't have come back, like Blue Tacoma by Russell Dickerson at 99, or Bad by XXXTENTACION at 97, or Here Tonight by Brett Young, or Splashin' by Rich the Kid at 92. Now, the big surprise for me was the massive resurgence of Tequila by Dan and Shay at 29, which looks to have made a sudden return based on the release of the acoustic version of the song, and the fact that the radio presence hasn't really faded yet. And honestly, I find it hard to complain, because even if it is really overexposed, I still mostly like the song. And we're in a similar situation with a lot of our gains surging up to plug in the holes of Future's faded album bomb. And while I've already mentioned Middle Child, the bigger story looks to be Thotiana by Blueface surging up to 28. Again, my issue with the song isn't the offbeat rapping, which is nowhere near as annoying or bad as the memes have made it out to be, but rather how the bars don't add up to much in a generic ass anthem. And on a similar note, we saw a lot of big rebounds. Pure Cocaine by Lil Baby shot up to 56, Saturday Nights by Khalid and Kane Brown rose up to 61, When the Party's Over by Billie Eilish rose up to 76, and Roses by Benny Blanco, Juice WRLD featuring Brendan Urie rose up to 85. I might have spoken too soon with that song falling off, although I still think it probably will. Or at least I really hope it does. And on that topic, why are we giving traction to Take It From Me by Jordan Davis up to 68? The song is concentrated mono-genre trash. It should not be getting anything on country radio right now. At least Dancing with a Stranger by Sam Smith and Normani's up to 31. And on the note of pleasant surprises, it was kind of nice to see Murder on My Mind by YNW Melly go up to 78 instead of that trash Kanye West abortion. Sometimes even the barest level of quality can start to rise. And I say barest because that song's not great either. Sadly, I'm not really sure I can really invest in our new arrivals with even that level of excitement. Starting off with number 98, Night Shift by John Pardi. Dying for your touch like crazy. Okay, look, I get making the most out of an album, but is John Pardi so far from releasing a new project that we're still mining singles from California Sunrise, an album that came out in mid-2016? That's not saying the song is precisely bad. The fiddle and the pedal steel, it sounds good, and the groove sounds mostly organic, but John Pardi does not have the vocal timbre to sell sexy in the vein that many of the guys are demanded to by mainstream Nashville, and the song is way too broad to nail any of the mood anyway. And unlike when Brad Paisley may go to bed early, it's being played mostly straight here, or that their John Pardi doesn't have that sort of level of comedic timing. So yeah, while I understand why it's getting pushed, it's about 2 years too late, and I'm still not all that interested. Number 90, Con Calma by Daddy Yankee featuring Snow. Well, this is a thing. Now, for those of you who remember the 90s at all, that is a prominent sample of Informer by Canadian rapper and reggae artist Snow, a song that I've got something of a mixed relationship with, given that it's catchy as sin and a fair bit harder than a lot of people remember if you go into the verses, but it's also delivered by a guy who probably shouldn't be forcing the patois delivery. And yes, there is a pretty sizable Jamaican population in Toronto, and that's probably still the crew where Snow hangs right now, and yes, Drake does it too. But I'm also fairly certain Drake shouldn't be doing it either, and I'll admit I couldn't help but wince a little bit when Snow dropped a verse on this song using that same patois. Now, thankfully, it's only a minor part of the song, and flipping the track to a straight reggaeton song for Daddy Yankee to bray over in a hookup jam is actually kind of inspired. It punches up the groove with more textured percussion, the melody line has always been great, and Daddy Yankee's got the natural charisma to match both the urgency and silliness of this song. In other words, look, I don't really expect it to be a hit beyond the novelty, but I'm not going to complain that it's here. That's all. Number 89, Sauce by XXXTENTACION. You know, it's very telling that people are just now realizing just how much the labels and other artists are milking XXXTENTACION's legacy, notably how this song debuted as low as it did off the 4th installment of the members-only compilation series, now framed as XXXTENTACION Presents. It's also very telling because this song was originally built off a 2018 remix of the Lil Yachty and Quavo song Ice Tray, a remix that was notably so bad that the instrumental had to be rebuilt from the ground up entirely to fit the beat here and his bars. And spoilers, this is still pretty bad. The spongy production, more of XXXTENTACION's slapdash singing, and when he's rapping, it's one of the laziest and most rapacious verses about women I've ever heard coming out of him. Seriously, it's more ad-lib than actual bars, where he claims that he's not being disrespectful, just the girls talk too much, he's just gonna fuck them and pass them around. Seriously, this was not good a year ago. Moving to more mediocre production is not redeeming it, it only serves to cast his very dubious legacy in a worse light. So yeah, let's do what the music industry should and move on. Number 88, Shot Clock by Ella May. Okay, I'm gonna try not to be that annoyed with this pick. LMA probably doesn't have that much choice over what singles get pushed at this stage of her career, and while I think she'd be right for a ballad right about now, and Easy is just right goddamn there, Shot Clock isn't precisely a bad song. Granted, it's not one of the better songs from the album either. The glassy synth doesn't really flatter her off this lumpy bass, especially given how much the song coasts by on an interpolation of Legends by Drake, and a very ugly, pitch-shifted voice around the hook, and all the backing vocals, they sound really compressed, but there is a little bit more strident personality from LMA here, and I'd probably listen to this over Trip, although not over Boot Up, and even then I'm not crazy about Boot Up. As it is, I don't know, I can see this doing okay, but I can also see this tanking with the wrong promotion, so we'll see. Number 86, I'm So Tired by Lauv and Troye Sivan. Just wanna go home, wanna go home, wanna go home, oh. Look, I'm not all that surprised these two teamed up. From what I know, they run in similar circles, and Lauv might be the guy to give Troye Sivan's smoother vibes the idiosyncratic flair they need. Hell, even though I never really liked I Like Me Better, that drop was kind of unique and distinctive. This, well, I dig the subtler acoustic groove and the general exasperation that comes through enough in the writing, highlighting the post-breakup angst from the two of them, but I can't help but feel like Lauv and Troye Sivan don't make the most out of their interplay in the vocals on this song. It just feels a little undercooked as a whole. Maybe a little bit more melody, flesh out more of a tune, it would help this stick out more. As it is, it's far from bad, but I'm not sure it's as distinctive as it should be. That's all. Number 74, Bury a Friend by Billie Eilish. What are you wondering? What do you know? Okay, so the end of March is the release date for Billie Eilish's debut album, and right now, I'm pretty excited, especially as the singles continue to get creepier and amping up some of the unease. We're not dealing with older songs anymore, and Bury a Friend is absolutely a step in the right direction. The subtle tapping beat against the muffled screams, the quaking warp of the synth, the pitch-shifted vocals, and all paired with an alarmingly catchy, really low-key hook. And that's before you dig into the actual content of the song. A shockingly graphic back and forth with a monster underneath her bed, where the monster is almost bemused that she's more scared of real-life terrors and loss, say nothing of her own mind, than the unknown terror lurking just a little deeper. And honestly, I got no goddamn clue if Billie Eilish can turn this into a sustainable hit. I mean, it's certainly catchy and unique enough to get there, but if she's gonna keep trying to push a pop structure into darker, more twisted directions with this sort of subtlety, hell yeah, I'm still on board, because this is excellent. Check it out. And finally, number 65, Put a Date on It by Yo Gotti featuring Lil Baby.
Hey, gotta put the camp on it. Pussy ass nigga always talking that tough shit. Nigga put a date on it.
And to end off this week, we're seeing something we've seen plenty of times before. Yo Gotti making a return with a new single on the back of a more popular artist. Now in this case, he's at least a marginally better MC than his guest, even if he tries to force the rhyme describing someone's father as a rat, so you're a mice. His rhymes, they at least connect a little better on this song about hustling drugs, shooting people, and screwing girls. Whereas Lil Baby will just keep mumbling over the non-rhymes on his verse and just assume that people don't notice. Odds are they probably won't, but I will. That said, the off-key trumpet loop blaring behind the trap beat does at least add some distinctive tune, and it kind of fits the darker, off-kilter vibe. There's a bit more danger there, and at least there's nothing here about them stealing your girl, but that's more because the content isn't really all that distinctive or interesting here either. There's just not much going on, and I'm not sure that the Lil Baby cosign is enough to get Yo Gotti what he wants. I don't know, it's not bad, but not precisely good either. So yeah, tough to say much about this week outside of some very clear entries for the best and the worst. Sauce by the late XXXTENTACION runs away with the latter. It wasn't good last year, new production doesn't make it remotely good here, and Bury a Friend by Billie Eilish easily clinches the best of the week. I'm really looking forward to that album. I see a ton of potential. I've liked all of her singles going in. But next week, honestly, it's looking pretty quiet and dry right now, so outside of a major single breaking through, we might have some breathing room before Ariana Grande smashes in. We'll see going forward. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse.